Good day and welcome to this early literacy workshop in partnership with Foundations Learning and Skills Saskatchewan and SIIT. Today we will be discussing language and how it is the foundation to strong reading skills. The materials needed for today are the workshop guide, pens and writing paper, strong foundations to reading handout, and if presenting for a group, 5 flip charts hung around the room with the following headings: conversation, vocabulary, story comprehension, print knowledge, and sound awareness. Other materials include masking tape and markers. My name is Kayla Schneider. I have over 10 years of experience working with children and families in many different avenues: schools, home support, preschool mental health, and most currently as the Family Literacy Coordinator at Foundations, where I've been for the past 4 years. I am grateful today for the opportunity to be speaking to you from Treaty 6 territory, the traditional lands of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dene, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, and Métis nations. We at Foundations acknowledge that many have come before us, and we hope to be respectful partners and stewards of this land during our time here. Foundations works towards education equity with a commitment to Indigenous peoples through community literacy programming. We pay special attention to Truth and Reconciliation Calls to Action 7, 10, and 12. And our work is guided by the needs of the community and engages volunteers. A way I like to continue to learn and take actions to do better in my home and work practice is through children's picture books. These titles spotlight and celebrate Indigenous peoples and cultures. Foundations is a nonprofit literacy organization that has provided literacy services to individuals, families, workplaces, and the community since 1979. We have 4 program areas: adult, financial, children's, and family literacy. Today we are going to discuss early literacy, and to start, I'll take you through what we mean when we talk about literacy. Literacy definitions have evolved over time. In this information age with technology and the world at our fingertips, we have moved beyond literacy being defined by grade levels or just being able to read or write. Today, literacy is about more than reading and writing. It is about how we communicate in society. It is about social practices and relations, about knowledge, language, and culture. Reading, writing, and numeracy skill development is particularly important for adults and families in our province. Literacy is linked to economic and personal success. The jobs people find, salaries they make, upgrade opportunities, and their ability to participate in their community are all directly related to their literacy skills. In short, literacy affects opportunities. Well, what is family literacy? Family literacy is the passing of information from one person to another to help promote a family's intellectual, social, emotional, spiritual, and educational growth. Family literacy takes place when a trusted adult spends time with a child to enhance the family's skills, knowledge, and experience. And what is early literacy? Early literacy doesn't mean teaching them to read or write. Instead, it is helping them to develop skills and a love of learning. Foundations early literacy programs benefit all members of the family, children, and adults alike in reaching their full potential at school and in the workplace. Our foundational work encourages conversations, reading in the home, and provides opportunities to explore the world in culturally relevant ways. Some of the key pillars in Saskatchewan's Early Years Plan reflect our priorities. So today, we will discuss some of those opportunities where you can enhance early literacy, language, and learning with young children. I will be making references to parents during the presentation, and when I do so, I mean this in the broadest sense to include any adult caregiver in a child's life. At Foundations Learning and Skills Saskatchewan, we believe a parent is a child's most important teacher. Children have many important adults in their lives who walk alongside them and their families to learn and grow together. Throughout this workshop, consider how you can use this information as an early childhood educator to support the children you work with and their families. The learning goals for the workshop are as follows. Increase understanding of early language and literacy development. Enhanced understanding of the link between language and literacy development. Strategies for building language skills in children. Increased understanding in the role childhood educators play in creating a strong foundation for language development and early literacy skills for children. Early literacy activities that can be easily replicated. Language development is one of the building blocks to reading. In this workshop, you will learn to better understand the link between language and literacy development and the role you play in creating a strong learning foundation. We will discuss various strategies for language development and build on what you are already doing or plan to do in your work with young children as an early childhood educator. The language you use around a child, no matter what language you speak, builds the foundation that will help them learn to read. Please pause the presentation now to jot down what you hope to learn from this workshop. Now let's explore the language literacy link through this visualization exercise. I want you to close your eyes and picture the following words in your head as I say each one. Apple, house, puppies, winter, angry, Vico, fusiform gyrus. Now open your eyes and let's talk about what happened in your brain as I said each of those words. Did you think about your past experiences? Were you able to create a picture in your head of each of the words I said? What happened when you got to a word you weren't familiar with? When hearing words like apple and house, you likely recalled on your experiences with the object and could visualize the word. Perhaps when you heard the word Vico, which is a chocolate milk brand, and fusiform gyrus, which is a part of the brain that aids in higher processing of visual information and memory, you were unable to create that mental picture. Language acquisition is a complex process that starts right from birth. The ability to communicate and interact with others is the foundation for reading, because reading is a language-based activity. When you hear a word you know, your brain has a mental picture of that word associated with it. When you encounter a word you weren't familiar with, you may need to hear it several times before you can attach a mental picture to it and it becomes part of your own vocabulary. Often, we refer to this as using prior knowledge to help make sense of new information. We'll talk about some of the ways you can build a child's language skills and vocabulary through everyday activities. Remember, by building their language skills, you are setting the foundation for their reading skills. Before we go on, I want to share important information about home language. In your role as an early childhood educator, consider how you may encourage and reassure families of the importance of home language. Some families may ask questions about home language use or share concerns that using their home language will confuse children or make it difficult for them to learn English. Consider how you can support the home language environment. A home language is a language or the variety of language that is most spoken by the members of a family for everyday interactions at home. It is the language that the children use as their primary means of communication and identifies them with their community. Home language environment is important for children, both in English-speaking and bilingual families. Supporting children in their home language can help them make an effective transition to schooling in the standard language in their community. Children should be encouraged to express themselves the way they feel most comfortable. Remember to connect with the parents if you have any questions. The same skills used to learn home language can be applied to learning English and can enhance their English language development. English language learners build on the language foundation that already exists. They can make connections between literacy skills in their home language and English. All of the activities and suggestions listed today can be used in any language. The key is building a strong language foundation for young children, no matter what language they speak. On a piece of paper, write down the following age groups: 0 to 1, 1 to 3, 3 to 5. Think about the language and communication skills of children in these stages as infants, toddlers, and preschoolers. What do you notice? What can you describe? Pause here to take notes or have further discussion. Now let's talk about the stages of language development. After your notes or discussion, you may have noticed the following about the different stages. Infants 0 to 1 are aware of sounds very early on and begin to communicate their own needs. Crying, babbling sounds, gestures. At this stage, communicating, singing, interacting, and cuddling a baby is so important, as you are the model for language. Toddlers 1 to 3 use language to express feelings and ideas, although they may have difficulty expressing exactly what they want to communicate, and this can lead to frustration. Toddlers may begin to use 3 to 4 word phrases and are starting to ask why. Toddlers will use some word endings and are understood about 75% of the time. Some parents have even taught their toddlers a few simple signs in American Sign Language in order to help their toddlers communicate their needs and wants. Preschoolers, 3 to 5, build on their vocabulary from hearing the words used by those around them, as well from ideas presented in books. Preschoolers will begin to use describing words, pronouns in sentences, ask more complex questions, and be understood almost all the time. A child at this stage may also begin to recognize signs and letters. They can think in more abstract terms about past and future events and begin to use more complex language. They can remember and retell familiar stories and love to hear stories about themselves. Language is the foundation on which reading skills are built. Children develop at varying rates and will hit these common milestones at different times. If a parent expresses concerns about their child's communication development, the parent may want to contact a speech-language pathologist at 306-655-2434 for guidance and/or complete an SLP referral form found at saskatoonhealthregion.ca. A physician's referral is not required. Please always follow your workplace guidelines and ensure you have current information to give to parents. Reading is part of a developmental process that takes time. There is no natural reading area of the brain. Instead, a network of connections develops to link existing areas that weren't previously linked. Reading becomes a way of accessing language by sight. This means it builds on foundations that are already used for recognizing visual patterns and understanding spoken language. For young children, the process of print to meaning is slow and effortful. This is partly because beginning readers have not yet built up a store of familiar words that they can recognize by sight. When a skilled reader encounters a printed word, that information travels from their eyes to their occipital lobe at the back of the brain, where it is processed like any other visual stimulus. From there, it travels to the left fusiform gyrus, otherwise known as the brain's letter box. This is where the black squiggles are recognized as letters in words. The letter box is a stopover on the word's journey because it only develops as the result of learning to read. It doesn't exist in very young children. Literacy is one of the areas where you have the simple tools, books, or other reading materials to become involved and to make a difference to growing language and helping develop skilled readers. You can create an environment that encourages an interest and love for learning. There are 5 things when you are working with children that you can do that cost nothing, that will help them become strong readers, and it is all based on language. The better stocked the toolbox, the easier it will be for them to learn when they get to school. Please refer to your handout now. Let's talk more in depth about these 5 things, and keep in mind that these 5 skills do not develop one after the other. They are all developing at the same time. Please use your handout to take notes in the notes column. Conversation. One of the best ways that caregivers and adults can help children develop language skills is through shared conversations. And how we talk is just as important as what we talk about. So we can be intentional in our conversations by using open-ended questions instead of simple yes and no, like, what was the best part of your day today? We can reframe responses to clarify and check for understanding, and ensuring that children are doing the talking at least half the time. So for example, I hear you saying you want to play with the trucks today. Can you tell me what you know about trucks? You will find children have a lot more to say when they are interested in the topic. Vocabulary and growing the words a child uses. So developing vocabulary and introducing new words. When children are playing together, use words to describe what they are doing and add in new words to increase their vocabulary. For example, maybe you're making Play-Doh. Narrate what you are doing together to build that vocabulary. So now we are going to combine the flour and the salt. We often get stuck using simple words with children. They are so capable. Keep in mind, if a child can say the word Tyrannosaurus Rex, we can use proper vocabulary. Try to avoid baby language by introducing new and exciting words. Remember back to our visualization language activity earlier where I asked you to close your eyes? Who remembers what the new words were that they hadn't heard before? Maybe not, right? Remember that it can take several times before a new word becomes part of a child's vocabulary, so managing expectations and repetition is key. Story comprehension, meaning and understanding. So how do we make meaning out of the stories we hear through books, conversations, and even TV? By talking about the stories, the characters, the choices they make, retelling a story in your own words. These understandings will help children to make sense of what they hear and provide rich examples for them to create their own stories. Sharing your own stories with children also promotes oral storytelling, which can be used to pass along teachings, traditions, family memories, and experiences. This skill can help a child feel confident to tell their own stories. Print awareness, identifying letters and words. Well, print awareness is something that can be developed from a very young age. Environmental print is the print that is all around us in signs, labels, and logos. Linking environmental print to their everyday lives helps children to understand that letters and symbols have meaning. For example, a child may not be able to read, but knows the red octagon means stop. Think about some of the signs and symbols you might see in an early education setting, or that you see every day. How might you use them for learning? Sound awareness, rhythm, syllables, and letter sounds. Along with print knowledge, we have sound awareness. Words can be broken down into syllables and individual letters, and these letters make sounds. Another term for this is phonics. Rhymes and songs are one great way to feel and hear the rhythm of language. Rhymes have expectant pauses like sentence structure or story time. Let the child fill in the blanks. All of these are the foundations to reading. Reading skills are built on play, enjoyable activities, and conversations with adults and peers. So how do books figure into the 5 skills? As we've talked about, books are a simple tool you can use to build those 5 skills when used effectively. Show a child how to hold a book. Flip the pages, point out the pictures and letters you see in the story. Relate stories back to their experiences. Literacy is about more than just giving a book to a child. Children will often ask you to reread the same book over and over. Some of you may have experience of this. What do children do when you read these familiar stories? Children love to read the same book again and again. They are often able to tell you the story word for word as well, and they know when you skip a word or tell a story in another way. Stories that are loved and familiar are like a warm hug to a child. They bring comfort. Reading a story together allows you to build on the story by asking questions and getting the child to predict what will happen next, or even to think about what is happening in the story from a character's perspective. That's perspective talking. Take a moment and think of your favorite children's book. What made it a great story? Who read it to you? Pause here if you'd like to have this discussion in your group. Have books and other reading materials easily accessible for children. Although it is nice to have a designated reading spot where a child can sit and focus on reading in a calm and comfortable space, reading can happen anywhere. These reading strategy activities help to build vocabulary, comprehension, and foster language development. Sharing stories help children build oral language in a variety of ways, developing children's speaking and listening skills, introducing new concepts or information, and increasing both vocabulary and the ability to define and explain the meanings of new words. This is why books are so important. They allow for conversation, introduction of new words, discussion, and questions about the story. But books aren't the only opportunity to grow those 5 skills, and not all children like to sit and read a book. It is important to manage your expectation for a child's attention span. There is lots of print out in the world that you can use to grow a child's skills. Remember the term environmental print? Let's talk about what you can do as an early childhood educator to build that important language foundation. Now, how do early childhood educators build language skills? An acronym we use when working with children and families is Orum. The Orum Framework was developed in Sheffield, England by a group of researchers who were working with and observing families. Orum stands for opportunities, recognition, interaction, and modeling. These are 4 practical ways that adults can support children's learning and development. Opportunities use everyday interactions as learning opportunities. Listening, talking, singing, playing, encouraging. Remember, oral language is one of the building blocks to reading. Recognition. Notice and value a child's achievements and celebrate them together. Steer away from just saying, "Good job." Give a child specific feedback such as, "You put a lot of hard work and focus into building that tower." Interaction. Spend time together. Involve them in everyday tasks, help to regulate emotions, build resilience, and offering reassurance and encouragement and sharing favorite stories. Modeling. Be a role model for a child. When you're reading, talk about what you read. Model a positive attitude towards learning. We do these things naturally. However, when we understand how Orum helps learning, we can be intentional in supporting a child's language development. I'd like to share now this family's quote and experience as it relates directly to Orum. I noticed her interest in printing letters really emerge over the course of this program. Prior to beginning this program, she was interested in pretend letters and words, swirly scribbles. Now she is interested in writing the letters in her name and even labeling some of her drawings. She has developed a newfound understanding of the power of writing. We went to the zoo and she decided to draw and label each of the animals we saw and even wanted to write the animal's name. So this parent used the opportunity with the trip to the zoo. They noticed their child's interest in printing and gave recognition. The parent was interacting as they followed their child's lead and helped write about the animals and modeling when she helped her to write. This next activity will help you be more intentional in the learning opportunities you can provide while working with children. If you are in a group setting, hang flip chart pages around the room, one for each of the 5 skills we discussed today. Conversation, vocabulary, story comprehension, print knowledge, and sound awareness. Thinking about your role as an early childhood educator, add activity ideas to each of the flip chart pages for the 5 skills. What activities can you do while working with children that would build language skills? If you are working in an early years setting or have experience with young children, what activities are you already doing with young children to build language skills in these 5 areas? If you are viewing the presentation on your own, or if you don't have flip charts, please list ideas on the back side of your provided handout in the column labeled Activity Examples. Pause now for 15 minutes to complete the activity. Now let's discuss some examples you may have come up with in your group or on your own. Many of the examples will fit across the 5 skills. Singing in rhymes, listening to music together, clapping out sounds and syllables. I Spy games. Reading signs. So can you see an M anywhere? What does M say? Water play. So pouring and measuring water. What sinks? What floats? Commenting on a child's play. Narrating your own actions. Print awareness. Which way do you hold the book? Look at this letter here. It is a C, and C says K. Scavenger hunts for letters or using descriptor words. So go find me something that is soft and yellow and starts with the letter D. Retelling stories or puppet play. Having a word of the day or week posted. Oral storytelling. Telling a story from memory whether it be your own or a retelling of a familiar favorite. This could be helpful for parents or caregivers who are not strong in reading, are listening to audiobooks and electronic resources, and following along with the story. Make a trip to the library to stock up on books, audiobooks, or other reading materials. You may notice from your examples and mine that many are games or playing together. This is no accident. Play is a child's work and is a natural way to learn. Children are not aware that their motor skills, language skills, and thinking skills are improving while they play. Research shows that by the age of 10, children who had played in kindergarten excelled in their advancement of reading and mathematics, social and emotional adjustments, creativity, oral expression, and intelligence. That critical work a child is doing while rhyming, building towers, and playing Play-Doh are all opportunities for learning. Literacy happens during the routines of daily living and does not require fancy materials. Model a love for stories, reading, books, and learning in general. From your own ideas and the examples I have given, what is one new idea that you have that you'll try in your work with young children? Pause now to discuss or note your ideas. So to summarize what we have discussed today, literacy is about more than reading and writing. It is about how we communicate in society. Literacy is linked to economic and personal success. Literacy happens in everyday routines, and early literacy skills flourish in language-rich environments. Language is the foundation to strong reading skills. Home language is important. Supporting children in their home language can help them make an effective transition to schooling in the standard language in their community. Share positive feedback often. Children should hear 6 times more often what they are doing well than what they are not doing well. Caregivers and important adults can recognize a child's resilience. Like, I saw this was hard for you, but you kept on trying. Reading and learning does not come easy. We need to be patient supporters for little learners. A child's language skills develop as they age and grow. Remember, language development is biological, and because children develop at varying rates, they hit common milestones at different times. Reading is part of a developmental process that takes time. There is no natural reading area of the brain. Unlike language, reading is not biological. Reading is a way of accessing language by sight. There are 5 things you can do right now to help children become strong readers. Talk, introduce new words, focus on story meaning and check for understanding. Play with environmental print, and play with rhythm, syllables, and letter sounds. Use moments throughout your day and in your early childhood setting to engage in literacy activities with children. Use the Orum Framework to be more intentional. Be a reading role model and have fun. Intentional language development activities, like we discussed today, will set up little ones for success when they get to school. A child's early years are the foundations for their future development. And as an early childhood educator, you play a key role in a child's future success. Thank you so much for your time today. Please reach out to Foundations if you have further questions or would like to volunteer or join a program. The next 2 slides have additional resources and the bibliography with many links for follow-up information and reading.